The morning sky above Earth's Global Defense Force headquarters was clear and blue when everything changed. At exactly 8:47 a.m. Universal Time, every deep space monitoring station across the planet sent the same alert. Massive objects were appearing at the edge of the solar system. Admiral James stood at the command center's main window, his coffee cup frozen halfway to his lips. On the massive screen before him, red dots appeared one after another, like stars blinking into existence. Each dot represented a ship larger than anything humanity had ever built. "How many?" he asked, his voice steadied despite the weight of the moment. Lieutenant Ray's fingers flew across his console. "Over 300 ships, sir. Still counting. They're appearing in formation." He paused, swallowing hard. "The smallest one is about the size of Manhattan." The Admiral set his coffee down, untouched. Around him, the command center hummed with controlled panic as operators relayed information and confirmed readings. 20 years of military service had taught him one thing: when faced with the impossible, focus on what you can do. "Get me the Security Council. All of them. Now." Within 30 minutes, the faces of Earth's combined military leadership filled the screens around him. Russian, Chinese, American, European, and African commanders, all wearing the same expression of controlled fear. "Ladies and gentlemen," Admiral James began, "at 8:47 hours, we confirmed the arrival of an alien fleet at the edge of our solar system. Their numbers and size suggest this is not an exploration mission. This is either an invasion or a show of force." The room erupted in multiple languages before the translation software could catch up. The Chinese general was the first to ask the crucial question: "What are their capabilities?" Before anyone could answer, every screen in the command center flickered. A new face appeared, if you could call it that. The being looked almost human, but wrong in subtle ways that made it more unsettling than if it had been completely alien. Its skin was too perfect, its eyes too large, its movements too smooth. "People of Earth," it spoke in perfect English, though its mouth movements didn't quite match the words. "I am High Commander Vale of the Galactic Imperial Fleet. We come with an offer you cannot refuse." Admiral James felt his jaw tighten. In his experience, offers you couldn't refuse were rarely offers at all. "Your civilization has been monitored since you first split the atom. You have shown remarkable progress, but also dangerous instability. The Galactic Empire has decided it is time to integrate your world into our domain. This is not a conquest, it is salvation. Resistance would be." The alien paused, as if choosing its words carefully. "Unfortunate." The transmission ended as abruptly as it had begun. In the silence that followed, Admiral James could hear his own heartbeat. The Russian marshal broke the silence. "They're giving us a choice that isn't a choice. Classic intimidation tactics. But look at their tech level," the African commander added. "Those ships, we might as well be fighting them with sticks and stones." Admiral James studied the latest sensor data flowing across his screen. The alien ships were moving now, spreading out in a pattern he recognized from his naval warfare studies. They were establishing a blockade position. "They're using standard military doctrine," he said, drawing everyone's attention. "They're thinking like we think. That means they can be understood. And if they can be understood, they can be fought." The Chinese general finished, nodding slowly. Just then, Lieutenant Ray called out from his station. "Sir, we're detecting smaller ships launching from the fleet. Dozens of them, heading into the inner solar system. Scouts," Admiral James said. "They're coming to take a closer look at what they're dealing with." He straightened his uniform and looked at each of the commanders in turn. "Ladies and gentlemen, I suggest we give them something worth looking at." The next few hours were a blur of activity. As the alien scouts approached, Earth's military forces began to move. Not to attack. They weren't that foolish, but to show they weren't helpless either. Submarines surfaced in carefully chosen locations. Missile silos opened their covers. Fighter jets took to the skies in formation. "Let them see," Admiral James muttered to himself as he watched the scouts approach on the main screen. "Let them see that humanity won't roll over without a fight." As the alien ships drew closer, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The real test would come when they had to decide just how far humanity was willing to go to remain free. And unknown to the approaching empire, that answer would shock them to their core. Captain Mark stood in the underground bunker, staring at the holographic display of the solar system. Red dots representing Imperial scout ships moved through Earth's space like hungry sharks circling their prey. He hadn't slept in 36 hours, but the coffee in his hand had gone cold, forgotten. "Sir," his assistant Tom called from the analysis station, "we've decoded more of their communications. It's not good." The captain walked over, his footsteps echoing in the concrete chamber. "Show me." Tom brought up a series of translated messages. "They've done this before. 47 times. Different civilizations, different planets, same result every time." He pointed to a particular section of text. "They're following a playbook." The captain leaned closer, his tired eyes scanning the data. The Empire's pattern was clear. First came the show of force, then the scouts, followed by psychological warfare, and finally, submission or destruction. No civilization had successfully resisted them. Well, almost none. "Wait," Captain Mark said, pointing to an anomaly in the data. "What's this gap in their conquest record? Planet designation XO47. Tom typed rapidly, bringing up more files. "That's interesting. They tried to conquer that civilization about 300 years ago. The records just stop, like they're trying to forget it happened." Before they could dig deeper, the bunker's lights flashed red. Above them, another scout ship was passing overhead, its scanning beams probing deep into the Earth's crust. "They're looking for something specific," Captain Mark muttered. He turned to the other analysts in the room, cross-referenced their scan patterns with known military installations. The results came back quickly, and they were surprising. The Imperial scouts weren't just looking at missile silos and military bases. They were paying special attention to old nuclear test sites. Just then, Admiral James's face appeared on the main screen. "Captain, please tell me you have something." "Yes, sir. We found their weakness." Captain Mark sent the data to the Admiral's terminal. "They're afraid of nuclear weapons, not just their destructive power, but something specific about them. And there's a dead zone in their conquest history, a civilization they don't talk about." The Admiral's expression changed as he read the report. "They've never faced a species willing to go all the way," he said slowly. "Every other civilization surrendered when faced with overwhelming force. Except one." "Sir," Tom interrupted, "we've got something else. A piece of their tech." In the center of the room, a security team wheeled in a sealed container. Inside was a twisted piece of metal, about the size of a dinner plate. It had fallen from one of the scout ships during a particularly close pass over the Pacific. The scientists went to work immediately. Within hours, they had their first breakthrough. "Their ship's hulls," the lead scientist explained, pointing to microscopic structures in the metal. "They're designed to handle energy weapons, plasma, even kinetic impacts. But radiation—" She looked up, her eyes wide. "Radiation does something strange to their shielding technology. It creates a cascade failure." Captain Mark's mind raced with the implications. Humanity's greatest shame, the development of weapons that could destroy the world, might be their salvation. "Get me the numbers," he ordered. "Every warhead we have, every test we've conducted. Everything." The data poured in from every nuclear-capable nation. The numbers were staggering. Over 2,000 successful detonations over the years, thousands more warheads in storage, and enough material to make many more. Admiral James called an emergency council meeting. On screens around the world, military leaders debated their options. "We could surrender," someone suggested, "and be slaves forever. another replied. Or we could show them exactly what they're dealing with, Captain Mark said, stepping forward. Show them why they should fear us. The room fell silent as he laid out his plan. It was insane, desperate, and exactly what they needed. If we're going to do this, Admiral James said finally, we only get one chance to send our message. It has to be perfect. It has to be clear. He looked at each person in turn. It has to make them understand that Earth is different from every other world they've conquered. Captain Mark nodded, already drafting the message in his mind. They would show the Empire why humans were feared even by themselves, why they had locked away their most terrible weapons, not because they couldn't use them, but because they knew exactly what they could do. And soon, the Empire would understand too. Commander Kate walked through the underground nuclear testing facility in Nevada, her footsteps heavy with purpose. Behind her, a film crew documented everything. This wasn't just for record-keeping. It was for their unwanted visitors in orbit. Are the cameras rolling? She asked, her voice echoing off the concrete walls. Yes, Commander, the lead cameraman replied. Broadcasting on all frequencies they're monitoring. They reached the main viewing room, where screens showed live feeds from nuclear facilities around the world. Russia, China, France, Britain, India. Every nuclear power on Earth was participating in this demonstration. It had taken just 3 days to coordinate what would normally have required years of diplomatic talks. Admiral James appeared on the central screen. Commander, is everything ready? Yes, sir. She nodded to her technical team. We're about to show them 60 years of human nuclear testing, all 2,147 successful detonations. The team began playing the carefully edited footage, underground explosions that made mountains dance, atmospheric tests that created artificial suns, underwater detonations that lifted naval ships like toys. Each blast was carefully documented, dated, and measured. But they weren't just showing old footage. Bringing up live feed from Test Site Omega, one of the technicians announced. The screen switched to a deep underground chamber, reinforced with layers of concrete and steel. Inside sat a single warhead, not their most powerful, but powerful enough to send a message. Commander Kate picked up the secure phone. This is Commander Kate. Authorization code Delta 79 Echo. Begin final countdown. The Imperial scouts above had intensified their scans, just as predicted. They were watching. Good. 10 minutes to detonation, the automated system announced. While they waited, Commander Kate walked to a wall displaying photographs of Earth's nuclear history. Robert Oppenheimer's famous quote was engraved beneath them. Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. 5 minutes to detonation. The Imperial ships were moving now, repositioning themselves. They'd detected the energy signatures building up below ground. 3 minutes to detonation. Admiral James's voice came through again. Commander, prepare to transmit our message. Commander Kate nodded to the communications officer, who loaded the carefully worded text. They had spent hours crafting it, making sure nothing could be lost in translation. 1 minute to detonation. She took a deep breath and began reading into the transmitter. To the Galactic Empire, you have watched us split the atom. You have seen our tests. What you witnessed was not our military might. It was our restraint. Every detonation was controlled. Every test was contained. We possess the power to destroy ourselves utterly. And we choose not to. The countdown reached 30 seconds. We have conducted over 2,000 nuclear tests. We have thousands more weapons ready. Our entire planet is wired to explode. If you force our hand, we will not hesitate. 15 seconds. This is not a threat. This is a warning. Earth's freedom is worth more to us than its survival. We would rather be dead than enslaved. 5 seconds. The choice is yours. The underground chamber erupted in blinding light. The blast was perfectly contained, just like all their tests. But the message was clear. Humanity knew exactly what it was doing. As the rumbling subsided, Commander Kate switched to the external cameras. The Imperial scout ships had pulled back, creating a wider gap between themselves and Earth's atmosphere. Message sent, she reported to Admiral James. "Well done, Commander." The Admiral's voice was grim but satisfied. Now we wait to see if they understood it. The next hour was tense. The Imperial ships maintained their new distant position, and their scanning patterns had changed. They were no longer probing for military installations. They were measuring radiation levels from the test. Commander Kate watched the data stream in. The Empire's response would tell them everything. Had they faced a species like humanity before? Would they recognize the sheer determination it took to build weapons that could destroy your own world? Would they understand that humans were crazy enough to use them? The answer came sooner than expected. The Imperial scouts began retreating toward their main fleet. "They're pulling back," reported the radar operator. "All of them." Commander Kate allowed herself a small smile. They got the message. But deep down, she knew this was just the beginning. The Empire wouldn't give up easily. But now, they knew that neither would Earth. High Commander Vale stood before the Imperial War Council, his perfect features twisted with something close to worry. The massive chamber, usually filled with the confident voices of Empire's greatest leaders, was unusually quiet. "Play it again," ordered First Speaker Rex, his aged fingers tapping the golden arm of his chair. The hologram flickered to life in the center of the chamber. Images of Earth's nuclear tests filled the air, explosions that turned sand to glass, weapons that could poison entire continents, and a species that had tested such devices over 2,000 times. "Impossible," muttered one of the council members. "No rational species would develop such weapons. The risk of self-destruction is too high." "And yet they did," Vale responded. "Not only developed them, but mastered them. Every test was controlled. Every blast was precisely calculated." He paused, letting the implications sink in. "They're not primitive savages who discovered a powerful weapon. They're engineers who turned world-ending devices into scientific instruments." Admiral Peter, newly arrived from the scout fleet, stepped forward. "We've intercepted more of their communications. Listen to this." The chamber filled with voices from Earth's military commands. "All silos ready. Submarines in position. Dead man switches active. They've wired their entire planet to explode." Admiral Peter explained. "If we try to force them into submission, they'll destroy everything, including themselves." First Speaker Rex raised a hand, silencing the murmurs that had broken out. "This reminds me of something. Archivist, bring up the records of planet XO47. The room darkened as ancient records appeared. Images showed another world, another civilization, from 3 centuries ago. The data was incomplete, heavily redacted. "The Lost Conquest," Vale whispered. Everyone knew the story, though few spoke of it. The only world that had ever refused imperial rule. "They chose extinction over submission," Rex said quietly. "We thought them insane. We thought we'd never see their like again." He gestured at the images of Earth. "We were wrong." Admiral Peter brought up new data. "Our scout sensors detected something else. Their nuclear weapons, the radiation they produce, it interferes with our shield technology." The council chamber erupted in concerned whispers. The Empire's superior shielding technology was the backbone of their military dominance. A weapon that could bypass it was unprecedented. "We could still crush them," suggested one of the younger council members. "Our fleet outnumbers their weapons." "At what cost?" Vale countered. "Even if we struck first, even if we destroyed 90% of their weapons, the remaining 10% would be enough to irradiate every ship in our fleet. We would win the battle and lose the fleet." First Speaker Rex stood, his ancient frame straight with authority. "There's something else to consider. Look at their history." The hologram shifted, showing Earth's countless wars, revolutions, and conflicts. "They fight among themselves constantly," Rex continued. "They divide themselves by borders, beliefs, and races. Yet the moment we appeared, they united. Every nation that possesses these weapons is working together. Their cooperation is disturbing. They're not just willing to die, Admiral Peter added. They're willing to die together, as one, rather than submit. I've never seen anything like it. Vale stepped forward again. There's one more thing. We've analyzed their message multiple times. They never once begged, bargained, or showed fear. They simply stated facts and gave us a choice. He paused. They're treating us as equals, even though we have them surrounded. First Speaker Rex returned to his seat, his expression grave. Send a message to the fleet. All ships are to maintain their current position. No aggressive moves. He looked around the chamber. We need time to think about this. We've conquered species with superior technology, superior numbers, and superior defenses. But we've never faced a species so committed to their freedom. And if they decide to take aggressive action? Someone asked. Rex's answer was simple. Pray they don't. As the council session ended, Vale looked again at the images of Earth's nuclear tests. For the first time in his career, he felt something he never expected to feel toward a less advanced civilization. Respect and fear. The Empire had found a species that couldn't be conquered through force. Now they had to decide what to do about it. Major Tom checked his instruments one final time as his stealth spacecraft drifted silently through space. The nuclear device in his cargo hold hummed softly, its presence a constant reminder of the insane mission he was undertaking. Status report. Admiral James's voice crackled through his secure comm. 5 kilometers from target, Tom whispered, though sound couldn't travel in space. Old habits died hard. Imperial scout ship still hasn't detected us. Below him, Earth glowed blue and peaceful, while above, the massive Imperial fleet hung like artificial stars. For 3 days, they'd maintained their distance, neither advancing nor retreating. It was the longest standoff in human history. Remember, the Admiral said, plant the device and get out. Don't try to be a hero. Tom smiled grimly. His ship was one of 30 carrying out the same mission. While the Empire watched Earth's surface, human stealth ships were quietly attaching nuclear weapons to their scout vessels. Insurance, they called it. The Imperial ships had started broadcasting propaganda messages 12 hours ago. Your civilization will benefit from Imperial guidance. Resistance will only harm your people. The Empire brings peace and prosperity. Earth's response had been simple. Every nuclear silo door on the planet had opened simultaneously, letting the Empire's sensors detect exactly what waited inside. Tom's ship's computer beeped softly. He was now within range of the scout vessel. Beginning final approach, he reported. The nuclear device was barely the size of a suitcase, one of humanity's newer, more efficient designs. Small enough to hide, powerful enough to tear through the radiation-sensitive Imperial shields. Just then, his sensors picked up a transmission from the scout ship to the main fleet. He held his breath, waiting to see if he'd been detected. The message translated in his computer. Sector clear. No sign of human aggression. Moving to next grid. Tom allowed himself a small smile. They were looking for missiles from the ground. They never thought to look for small ships moving through space itself. Packages armed, he reported as he maneuvered closer, preparing for attachment. Back on Earth, in the command center, Admiral James watched as 30 dots moved among the Imperial scouts. Each dot represented one of their stealth ships, each carrying a nuclear device. Commander Kate stood beside him, monitoring the Imperial communications. They're still broadcasting propaganda, she reported, but the tone has changed. Listen. The latest message played through the command center. The Empire acknowledges Earth's strength. Cooperation would benefit both our civilizations. They're moving from threats to bargaining. Admiral James noted, they're realizing we're serious. On his screen, he watched as Major Tom's signal showed a successful attachment. One by one, other signals began showing the same. The plan was working. Sir, Commander Kate called out, We're picking up unusual movement in the Imperial fleet. They're pulling their scouts back." Admiral James leaned forward. She was right. The scout ships were retreating toward the main fleet, unknowingly carrying their nuclear passengers with them. "Get me Major Tom," he ordered. "Here, sir." Tom's voice came through. "Device is planted and armed. Beginning retreat." "Negative," the Admiral replied. "Stay with that scout ship. I want to know exactly where it goes." The next few hours were tense. The Imperial scouts, each now secretly carrying the human nuclear device, rejoined their main fleet. When the count was complete, 30 nuclear weapons were now hidden among the Empire's ships. Commander Kate reviewed the final reports. "All devices are in place, sir. Each one is linked to our dead man switches. If Earth goes, they go too." Admiral James nodded slowly. "Send the message." Across all frequencies, Earth broadcast its update. "To the Galactic Empire. Your fleet now hosts 30 nuclear devices. They are armed and linked to Earth's defense system. Any aggressive action will trigger them all. We await your response." The propaganda broadcast stopped immediately. In his small ship, now hidden behind a moon of Jupiter, Major Tom watched the Imperial fleet through his telescope. For the first time since their arrival, he saw fear in their positioning. Their perfect formations had become hesitant, each ship now keeping a careful distance from its neighbors. Sometimes, he muttered to himself, "The best way to prevent a war is to make it unwinnable for everyone." The standoff had entered a new phase. The Empire had come expecting to find sheep ready for slaughter. Instead, they'd found wolves in sheep's clothing, armed with the deadliest teeth in the galaxy. Now they had to decide, was conquering Earth worth risking their entire fleet? Dr. Anna walked down the long corridor of the neutral space station, her footsteps echoing in the artificial gravity. The station had been assembled in Earth's orbit in just 2 days, a demonstration of the Empire's advanced technology. Now it would host the first real negotiations between humanity and the Galactic Empire. "Remember," Admiral James's voice came through her earpiece, "we negotiate from strength, not weakness." She touched the small silver pin on her collar, a clever device that would trigger all 30 nuclear weapons hidden in the Imperial fleet if her heart stopped. The Empire sensors could definitely detect it. That was the point. The door slid open to reveal the negotiation chamber. High Commander Vale stood at the window, his tall figure outlined against Earth's blue sphere below. 2 Imperial guards stood at attention, their weapons conspicuously holstered. "Dr. Anna." Vale turned, his artificial-looking features arranged in a diplomatic smile. "Welcome to neutral ground." "Commander Vale." She nodded, taking her seat at the table. Her own guards took up positions by the door. "Shall we begin?" Vale sat across from her, placing a device on the table that created a holographic display between them. "Your species has surprised us, Doctor. In 10,000 years of Imperial expansion, we've never encountered anything quite like humanity. Is that why you've agreed to negotiate?" she asked, keeping her voice level. "Because we surprise you. We've agreed to negotiate because you've demonstrated something remarkable." Vale leaned forward. "You've shown us that conquest isn't always the most efficient path to cooperation." Anna smiled thinly. "Interesting choice of words. Just days ago, you called it submission." The holographic display showed images of Earth's history, wars, revolutions, technological advances. "Your species fights constantly," Vale observed. "You divide yourselves, wage war on each other, develop weapons that could destroy your own world. By all logical measures, you should have annihilated yourselves long ago. And yet here we are," Anna replied. "Perhaps constant conflict has taught us something your empire has forgotten: the value of freedom." Vale's perfect facade cracked slightly. "You would truly destroy yourselves to remain free. Even now, your nuclear weapons sit among our fleet, ready to trigger if we make one wrong move. This is madness." "No," Anna leaned forward. "This is humanity. We build things knowing they could destroy us. We create art even while fighting wars. We dream of the stars even while pointing missiles at each other. We are contradictory, illogical, and absolutely determined to control our own destiny. The chamber fell silent. Outside the window, an Imperial ship drifted past, unknowingly carrying its nuclear passenger. "What are your terms?" Vale finally asked. Anna placed her own device on the table. A new hologram appeared. A proposed treaty. Earth remains completely independent. We will not join your empire, but we will consider mutual trade agreements. You recognize our sovereignty over our entire solar system. In return, we won't share our nuclear technology with other worlds you've conquered. Vale's eyes narrowed. You threaten to arm our subjects. No, Anna smiled. We're offering to not give them ideas. Imagine if other worlds learned that a primitive planet successfully resisted the Empire. Imagine if they discovered how we did it. The implied threat hung in the air. Vale studied the treaty terms, his artificial features unreadable. There's more, Anna continued. We want access to Imperial star charts and permission for human ships to travel through Imperial space. We'll share some of our technological developments. Except weapons, of course, and we want cultural exchange programs. Cultural exchange. Vale seemed genuinely surprised. You still wish to learn from us, even after we threatened your world. Commander, Anna's voice softened slightly. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our weapons or our willingness to use them. It's our curiosity. Even now, faced with a hostile empire, we want to learn, to understand, to explore. We'd just prefer to do it as equals, not subjects. Vale was quiet for a long moment, staring at the treaty terms. Finally, he spoke. The Empire is not accustomed to equals. Then perhaps, Anna replied, it's time for the Empire to learn something new. The negotiation was far from over, but as Dr. Anna looked out at Earth floating peacefully below, she knew humanity had changed the galaxy forever. The species that was too stubborn to surrender, too curious to isolate itself, and just crazy enough to be taken seriously. 6 months after the Imperial fleet first appeared above Earth, Admiral James stood on the observation deck of humanity's first faster-than-light ship, watching workers attach the final panels to its hull. The ship's name was painted proudly on its side. Deterrent. Quite a sight, isn't it? Commander Cade asked, joining him at the window. Imperial engine technology with human engineering. They never expected us to improve their design so quickly. The Admiral nodded, remembering the shocked faces of Imperial engineers when human scientists had suggested modifications to their propulsion systems. How are our other projects progressing? The Mars colony is ahead of schedule, Kate reported, bringing up a holographic display, another piece of Imperial technology that humans had quickly mastered. Having access to Imperial construction methods helped, and our lunar defense station will be operational next month. A flash of light caught their attention. Above Earth's atmosphere, an Imperial trading vessel emerged from faster-than-light travel. It was a common sight now, but military tracking systems still marked its every move. Some habits were hard to break. Speaking of the Empire, Kate continued, their cultural exchange students are causing quite a stir at universities. Apparently, they've never encountered human concepts like democracy before. It's giving their government headaches. James smiled. Dr. Anna's negotiation strategy had worked better than anyone expected. Earth had gained its independence, but more importantly, it had gained influence. Ideas were spreading through the Empire, carried by merchants, students, and diplomats who visited Earth. His communicator beeped. Admiral. Major Tom's voice came through. You're needed in the command center. We're receiving a priority message from the Imperial capital. In the command center, First Speaker Rex's hologram waited. The ancient Imperial leader looked troubled. Admiral James, Rex began. We have a situation. 3 worlds in the Carina sector are demanding independence. They claim to have developed weapons similar to your nuclear devices. James kept his face neutral. Earth hadn't shared nuclear technology, as promised. But they hadn't hidden the science behind it either. Information had a way of spreading. That sounds like an internal imperial matter, he replied carefully. Rex's expression hardened. They mentioned Earth in their demands. They say if one primitive world could stand up to the Empire, so can they. Freedom can be contagious, James said. As I understand, that's why your empire usually destroys cultures instead of trading with them. You chose a different path with Earth. We had no choice, Rex snapped. Your species was too. He struggled for the word. Crazy? James suggested, determined. Or maybe we just valued freedom more than you expected. The first speaker was quiet for a moment. The Empire is changing. Admiral, these rebellions, these demands for independence, this isn't how the galaxy is supposed to work. No, James agreed. It's how progress works. After the transmission ended, Commander Kate approached with another report. The nuclear devices hidden in the Imperial fleet had all been quietly removed. Their purpose served. Earth's defense now relied on more advanced technologies. Some Imperial, some human, some a mixture of both. Did you ever think, she asked, when they first appeared over Earth, that this is how it would end? Not with a war, but with trade agreements and cultural exchange programs. James watched as another Imperial ship descended toward Earth's new spaceport. We showed them something they'd never seen before, a species willing to die for freedom, but eager to live in peace. He turned to face the massive window. We didn't just surprise them with our weapons, we surprised them with our humanity. Outside, the deterrence engines began their first test ignition. Soon, human ships would travel between the stars, not as Imperial subjects, but as free explorers. Earth's corporations were already establishing trade routes, its scientists were studying alien technologies, and its culture was spreading across the galaxy. The Empire thought they were coming to conquer a primitive world, James said. Instead, they found equals. And now, he gestured to the bustling activity of the spaceport below. Now they have to live with the consequences of treating us as equals. And the nuclear weapons? Kate asked. The ones that saved Earth. James smiled. Kept safely in their silos where they belong. A reminder to us, and to the galaxy. Humanity would rather be dead than enslaved, but we'd much prefer to be friends. As the sun set over Earth's first interstellar spaceport, ships from a dozen worlds moved through the darkness above. Each one was a testament to humanity's unique place in the galaxy, the civilization that had forced the mighty Empire to learn the value of freedom, the power of determination, and the simple truth that some things were worth dying for. And that made them worth living for, too.